One day, my grandfather answered a question with a poem. I don't think he knew he was giving me one of the most important lessons of my life. Our spirits deserve to be cared for as carefully as anything else. That conversation and his example continue to inspire me every day. I wanted to share it in hope that it might inspire someone else too. That's the story behind this episode. Hi, I'm Jen. Today I'm telling some stories while I work on a bag, and this is not a bag tutorial. I am not real sure how it's going to turn out. In fact, this may be a tutorial on how not to make a bag. So I hope you'll stick around.
Hey, Rosie. You gonna hang out with me while I make some stuff? Huh? Good morning, sweet girl. Good morning, sweet girl.
So I guess we're going to dive full on into story hour here. I have a feeling I'm going to talk about my grandpa a lot on this channel. I don't think I'd be doing any of this if it weren't for him. When he got out of the army, when he came back from Japan, he wanted to start his business right away. He was a plumber, well, plumbing contractor. He said that when he came back, he applied for a loan from the VA, I guess, and they turned him down because he'd only applied for a $3,000 loan. And what they told him was that if he added another zero, they'd talk. He didn't want to take out a loan for that much money. So he had to figure out how to make the money to start his business, which he did. He ended up going to Arizona and helping his uncle, who was also a contractor, for a little while. And so that he could earn that $3,000 he needed to buy the tools to open up his business officially. And while they lived in Arizona, he and my mother built a coffee table out of scraps from all the houses that he helped build while he was there. It is one of the few material possessions that I am truly sentimental about. When he came back, it never even occurred to him to just go to work for somebody else. It never even crossed his mind. He was always intent on having his own business. I think I always looked at my grandparents' lives and their marriage as the way you did things, the happily ever after thing. My grandparents were very definitely best friends and business partners and basically inseparable. And when I had an opportunity to stay home and raise my kids, I saw that as a blessing. It was something that I was getting to do that my grandmother got to do and that my mom didn't. My grandpa wasn't a plumber because he loved plumbing. He was a plumber because he knew how to do it. His dad was a plumber. It was the family business. Back then, knowing a trade, it wasn't necessarily a guarantee, but it meant you had an easier time having a job. If you knew how to do something useful to a community, you could generally count on being able to make a living doing it. Things don't seem to work that way anymore. You find a job where somebody will pay you a wage and then they show you how to do the job. Once upon a time, we had cobblers and tailors and blacksmiths, and now we have a lot of things that are designed to be disposable instead. When I was a kid, there was a shop in my hometown where these guys fixed and sold bicycles. And it was the one place in town where you went when you needed keys made, too. They were a fixture in the community. And we had the old main street with the brick roads, and there was a florist and a movie theater and music shop, a dress shop, and a gas station where somebody came out and pumped your gas and washed your windows. That was just how they did it. There's so much I miss about the way the world used to be. And people don't do the same things they used to, and when they do, they don't do them the same way. I'm getting off track. I was going to talk about my grandpa, and I'm probably going to do that a lot while I'm doing these things because he was a pretty awesome dude, and it just makes me sad that more people didn't get to meet him. I had a pretty interesting childhood. My grandparents had the plumbing business, and their house was the headquarters. Grandpa had an office downstairs, but more often than not, he just worked at the dining room table. He had these cabinets built in behind him at his spot at the table where he kept the things that he needed for his business, so he didn't have to go downstairs to that office very often. And he had a CB radio system set up. There was a home base unit in the house, in the kitchen, right next to the refrigerator, and then a unit in each service truck, and a radio tower on the back patio that I always wanted to climb. I really wanted to climb that thing, but I was scared to fall. I still remember the call sign and the line that I was to use to raise Grandpa on the rare occasion I was allowed to disturb him at work. It was so exciting. It felt like he was talking to me from the moon. Every morning, the guys would come in to get their trucks and their assignments and find out where they were working that day and what they needed to pick up from the plumbing supply store. All those conversations happened at the dining room table. My brother and I would be sitting there eating while the business of the day went on above our heads. I got to help Grandpa on jobs sometimes. That happened more and more as I got older. In the back of my mind, I think I assumed I was going to apprentice for him as soon as I turned 18. I mean, my mother worked for him as a journeyman, so. But he had to close the business when I was 14 or 15, I think. It might have been later than that. Anyway, as kids, we spent most of our time at our grandparents' house with Grandma. Grandpa worked a lot, and we were always really happy when he was home while we were there. Even as an adult, I still saw the two of them almost every day. Grandma watched my kids too. And my kids got the same grandmother that I did. She was like Mary Poppins, landed in Kansas and stayed. Grandma used to keep cash in the china cabinet in the dining room. It was the petty cash fund for the business, but also for the household. If she needed to send somebody to get lunch or run to the store for milk, didn't want to, cut a check for $1.79 for. Remember when you could get milk for $1.79? Anyway, or if she needed to pay the paper boy, or Girl Scout cookies came to the door, or whatever. She had that in the house. It's usually 10s and 20s in a little creamer pitcher up in the china cabinet. Every now and then, Grandpa would go over to that cabinet, take a couple of bills out of that pitcher, and just head towards the door. Grandma would give him a hard time, not like an actual hard time. Where are you off to? What do you think you need? And on more than one occasion, Grandpa answered that question with one word: hyacinths. He'd get this little sheepish look on his face when he said it, and I never understood, but she'd just smile and go back to what she was doing. It seemed to be some kind of code they had. Like, I was a kid the first time I heard it. All I knew was that a hyacinth was a flower. He was never gone very long. Grandma didn't seem the least bit confused when he came back, not with hyacinths, but with 3 boxes of cookies, and then sat down and helped my brother and me destroy our dinners. She made a show of being irritated with him, but she was grinning the whole time. Grandpa, you're going to spoil your dinner. I also remember the times that he left for a while and came back with shoes for us. They were always the right size. He never asked Mom. He seemed to just know, and he just did it. Years later, he did the same thing for all my kids. And I saw how he did it. He'd hold the kid's foot up to his thumb and forefinger and mark on his hand how long their feet were, and then take that measurement to the shoe store. He was never wrong. And sometimes he brought back pogey bait. That was what he called candy. I guess that's what they called it in the Army. He never called it anything else. He loved peanut brittle. It wrecked his teeth, but he loved it. When his teeth got bad enough he couldn't eat it anymore, he was actually sad that he couldn't eat peanut brittle anymore. Once he really did bring flowers home for Grandma on one of those occasions, but they weren't hyacinths. I think they were roses. He'd do that every birthday and every anniversary. He ordered flowers for 11, not a dozen, always 11, because of a song that meant something to them. I'm going to have to go look it up now. He used to call my grandma Tiger for the same reason, because of a song. I don't think I heard him call her by her actual name more than 2 or 3 times my entire life. He always called her Tiger. And then it became a family nickname. My mom was Little Tiger, and I was Teeny Tiger, and my daughter was Tiny Tiger. Hi, Teeny Tiger. He nicknamed everybody in the family. The girls were Tigers, and the boys were Little Man. One day, it was just Grandpa and me out in the shop, and I asked him what he meant when he said hyacinths. He said, what he said next, I will remember as long as I live. I'm going to try to get through the story without crying. He said, like the poem, just matter of factly said it like he was giving me the instructions for replacing a leaky fitting. If of thy mortal goods thou art bereft, and of thy slender store 2 loaves alone to thee are left, sell one, and with the dole buy hyacinths to feed thy soul. I think my jaw actually dropped because he chuckled a little bit at my reaction. I had known this man for nearly a quarter of a century at that point, and I had never seen him just sit down and read a book for pleasure. I'm not sure he ever had that kind of time. And if he had time that belonged to him, he went fishing if the weather allowed it. And if it didn't, he was probably out in the shop making something. Even with his business, he gave so much of his work away. Grandma always said he was too kind-hearted to be a businessman. There were a lot of times when Grandpa told Grandma not to bill somebody. He knew he was doing something everybody needed. Everybody needs their plumbing to work properly, and sometimes things happen that you just can't plan for. And if you don't have money sitting around, what are you going to do? Not call the plumber when you can't flush the toilet? Like, Grandpa knew that he did something that everybody needed and that not everybody could necessarily easily pay for. And he was very good at being able to tell when somebody might have trouble paying him. And he wasn't about to put anybody on the spot. He just wouldn't send him a bill. Freaking saint. Every day he woke up at 2 in the morning. He didn't set an alarm. He'd just wake up after going to bed right after dinner the night before. Sun's still up. He'd sit alone in his spot at the dining room table, and all those little hours before the business day started. And most days he didn't even turn on the TV. All that weight he carried on his mind and his heart, and yet he laughed so much. He laughed so often. He could find the humor in just about anything. When I started hearing people talk about love languages, I remember hearing acts of service and thinking that was my grandfather. He would do just about anything he could for another human being. That was what most of his life was about. Even when he closed his business, he ended up going to work at a nursing home, and that's where he stayed. Even the things he loved doing for himself were often about making something for somebody else, because doing for other people just lit him up. The older I get, the more I see how very important it is to find your hyacinths. Hyacinths were his name for the part of life that feeds your soul: cookies with your grandkids, or shoes somebody needs, or flowers for the person you love, fishing, making things, helping somebody without making them ask. I started growing hyacinths not long after he died. I'm sorry. Every spring, they push up through the cold ground when it is still frozen and so hard that it's like it wakes everything up for the spring. And I think it's the most powerful scent that there is in the garden. It's almost like they were invented by God just to wake the bees up for the season. After my kids were grown and I needed to figure out what to do with the hours, I got a job right away. But it has never felt like the right fit for me to punch a time clock and spend my days doing something that I don't believe in. I mean, I did some writing while I was home with the kids. I had a creative business. I quilted, I made soap, I made cookies. Over the last few years, I have been building a job for myself out of the things that I know how to do and that I love to do. And it has been one challenge after another. But it has been one challenge after another. I've also learned to be very careful about turning something that you love into the full-time job you depend on for your livelihood, because there's a very good chance you could burn yourself out on the thing that you love. This channel started as something I was going to use to help my business. I made quilts and soap and all these other things, and I thought the channel could, maybe be a place where I could promote them. But I still feel very awkward trying to sell anything. But but I can share things that I know how to do, and I can tell stories and, well, keep somebody company here that just, I don't know, needs somebody to sit with. I can tell stories, and I have a lot to tell. I can make these videos and do my little part to contribute something to the world that maybe possibly makes it a little bit better for somebody somehow. And I'm actually kind of starting to dig making the videos too. It's another thing I can plant on my little shelf of hyacinths. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm sharing my hyacinths, literal and metaphorical, and hoping that by doing it, I might encourage somebody else to find theirs. Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave the mobile maker bag for the day. That's what I'm calling it in my head. I don't know if that's going to stick or not. It isn't finished yet, but neither is any of this. I'm still building the bag and still learning how to make videos and still figuring out how to tell the stories I came here to tell. And that is really why I wanted to tell you that story first. So until the next time, tend what matters and go find your hyacinths.